Jai Gurudev, everyone, welcome back again. So, earlier we were talking about the japam, you know. Very often, people doesn't realize what benefit they are receiving being in the presence of the Master. For the devotee, of course, they know about it. You know. And but very often people don't realize it. Said, okay, fine, why should I be in that presence of that Master? You see, in the presence of the Master, especially when we are doing the japam, we are singing together, the benefit that one receives is much more. Actually, you see, what is the goal of the Master? The goal of the Master is to make the devotee or the followers radiate the love of God. And to transcend the limitation which they have in their mind itself. You know? So to shine Giridhari inside of the heart of everyone, this is the role of a Master. When we are chanting, you see, together, it's not that it's different when you chant separately. Of course it's the same. But the only difference is that when you're chanting with the Master symbolizes a whole multitude of blessing. It carry the lineage of blessing. You know, that what when you take initiation, you are blessed also. You also carry that blessing with you. But being in the presence of the Master, the chanting is amplified itself. You know. That's why Sri Ramanujacharya, which we were celebrating yesterday, his birthday, one of his last, how you say, command, what he said, at least 1 hour a day one should spend in the company of the Guru or in the remembrance of the Guru. Why do you think he said that? Just like that? No, he said, but by being in the presence of one spiritual Master, the benefit that one gets, you see, it's tremendous, it's amazing. Because the Guru, here I'm not talking about every Guru, I'm talking those Guru who show you the way to the lotus feet of Srimad Narayana, the lotus feet of God. Spending time in the presence of the Guru, you know, it's like spending time, because the Guru represents the deity himself. You know. The Guru is considered to be the pure devotee. So, being in the presence of the pure devotee, one transforms oneself. So when you're chanting the name of God, the transformation is happening inside of you. Once a devotee approached Sri Vallabhacharya, and he said to Sri Vallabhacharya, I would love to feed 100 Brahmin. And Vallabhacharya said, you don't need to feed 100 Brahmin, you can just feed one devotee of the Lord. If you feed one devotee of the Lord, it will be equal to feeding of 100 Brahmin. Then he said, fine, I will feed 100 devotee. Then Vallabhacharya said to him, what the use of feeding 100 devotee? You can just feed one Brahmin devotee. Then it would be equal to a devotee of the Lord. You know, it would be equal to feeding 100 devotee of the Lord. Then he said, okay, fine, then I will feed 100 Brahmin devotee. Like then Vallabhacharya said, then it's better you feed only one pure devotee of the Lord. It will be equal in feeding 100 Brahmin devotee. Then he said, okay, fine, then I will feed one pure devotee, 100 pure devotees. Hearing that, Shivalabhacharya started crying. Because he said, in this world, where would you get the association of 100 pure devotees? That's why when you are doing your chanting in the presence of your master, your guru, that bear more benefit than just chanting by yourself. So I will ask Jayagopal now to say. When Swami Pritala was talking to the Ukrainian devotee, because according to the normal planning, today, this week would have been the Ukrainian week also. And it was lovely seeing the Ukrainian devotee, because I was just coming back. I went to visit Swami Pritala quickly, and I saw them, and then they asked for, I said, a long time we didn't have darshan, please give them. And I said, okay, look, you're seeing me, I'm seeing you, this is already darshan. But of course, you see, darshan have a different energy in itself, And yeah, so then I decided to bless them. It was amazing, because even being, I was seeing them in front on the computer. That energy, when it is amazing. So we will try later with the residents here. So then maybe we will see how it is, and we will start doing online darshan. So, Jayagopal.
Dear Guruji, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 6, Krishna says, "One who restrains the organs of action whilst still contemplating on the objects of the senses is deluded and a hypocrite." Does this mean to have no thoughts about material things at all, or just not to be attached to those thoughts?
Actually, in this verse, when we look at it, we see when Bhagavan is saying that one can't think. Let's see chapter Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 5, when he said that no one can stay inactive for a single moment, because they are compelled by they're compelled by the law of nature under the influence of the three gunas, which is Rajasic and Tamasic, Rajasic, Sattvic and Tamasic, So into that, when we look in chapter 5 itself, you see that one can't stay inactive at any moment. When he's saying that one can't, because one is compelled by this, one can't stay in a mode of non-activity. Even when one is sitting, one is relaxing, only the body is relaxing, but the mind and the intellect carry on working. So also one thing is that, let's say, you enter into a deep sleep. Are you inactive, or are you still active? Very often people think that, okay, I will just take rest, I will be fine, But actually, when you are sleeping, there is a much more action happening inside of your body. Because firstly, we have to see the action of the mind itself. What you have collected throughout the day, it starts to replay itself in the mind. So it is like the mind starts to, how you call it, download? You say download, eh? So the mind starts to download this. I'm not too good in computer as a terminology, So the mind starts to download all this images, like you said, that one can one picture, when we are talking, what we are seeing, all this stuff, are just pictures inside of the mind. It's like from one picture to the other. Somebody was explaining to me, even while recording, actually it is just picture after picture. That's how, when you're recording it, even if it appeared like a movement, it is one picture to the other. So the mind also thinks in the same way. So it have to start downloading what you have pick up all around, because every day you are memorizing thousands, 100,000 of images inside of your mind. So the action is still happening inside of the mind. So you don't stay in action. So the mind is still working even when you are sleeping. Actually, that's why, you see, when you sleep, you are in a state of, you are resting, the body is resting, but the mind is working, is processing everything. So one can't really stay in the state of inaction. But when one is doing one sadhana, for example, when one enters in a state of deep meditation, one starts to transform that process in itself. Because what the mind starts to, see, when a normal person goes into the world, it downloads everything. Whereas one who has self-control, it starts to become selective. Even the brain becomes selective. So the brain starts to select into what mode am I functioning. So even in Bhagavad, it's said, Bhagavad 6, Canto 6, Chapter 1, verse 53, it's similar. They said no one can be in such a state of non-active, because we are bound by these laws of nature. So the gunas act upon your life itself, So this depends also on what you have done in your previous life. So that what you have done in your previous lives, it's reflecting upon this life itself also. So can you really be inactive? No, you can't. So action is always happening. Inside the body, for example, even when you're in a state of deep sleep, your heart is still beating. The inner function, the blood flow is still happening. They don't stop. And in the place of a yogi, that is transformed. That's why the yogi can sit for years even, in one place, in deep contemplation and absorbed into the self. It's not bound by that free mode of Tantric, Rajasic and Sattvic. Chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7 verse 12, Bhagavan said, all these things, it is, I have created everything. They are into the mode of the three gunas, Everybody is bound by that. But me, I am not, They are all in me, but I am not in them. Again, he repeat the same verse that he said in chapter 9, verse 4 or 5, I can't remember. So he repeat the same verse again in chapter 12. He said that. So being in that mode of Maya, one is not free. So how one can be free? Only when one transcends that limitation of identification which one have given to the external. Our identification is bound by the three gunas itself. So either one is good, one is dull, or one is just inactive. So when one stop this identification to that, let's say for those who have surrendered to the Lord and really their mind have been absorbed into Him, that change happen. The divinity which is inside of them start to awake. Then you don't identify yourself to the action of the outside. You know that every action is there for the service of the Lord, to serve Him. Because you have forget that your life has been given to you as a servitude to the Supreme. That life has been given to you for one aim, let us, for one aim is let us serve the eternal Lord. To serve Him, we have to have a certain idea of Him. You have to feed the mind. So that's why you see in this world people are running and doing, they have this mentality, let's serve humanity, let's do caritative job and work, So we have a certain state where we do think of serving others, let us help somebody. So we are not in a state of inaction, but yet we are bound by this frigunas that push us forward, make us understand, firstly, we are in touch with which kind of mode we are in, So if we dwell into the sattvic mode, of course our whole concept of how we see things gets transformed itself. But if we dwell in tamasic things, of course, then we will be inactive. We will not do anything. So here you see the inaction of things, you see, and then action and unaction, So these three modes dwell upon life itself. So it's not that we can't think, We can think. We must have an aim, but that aim must be clear. Like the Bhagavad said, why our life is here is our life is here as service. We are here, Guru remind you that you have to be happy. But what kind of happiness are you longing for? A short-term happiness, or you want an eternal happiness? Short-term happiness include those happiness which lead you also only to heavens, where you will have a certain merits. Once the merit is finished, you come back again to earth, to again go through the same samsaras, through the cycle of birth. Here the Guru come and remind you that even Bhagavan Krishna said it, so you have to come to a point that you have to be with me, to dwell with me. It's not being in the cycle of birth and death. As long as you give even the good what you do for humanity and importance, you are still in that cycle of birth and death. But here we have to say, give the importance to humanity, but know that humanity is part of Krishna Himself. So when that is clear, who are you service? Where is your mind? How your thinking will be diverted only to the lotus feet of the Lord Himself. So the question again, please, because there's a second part to that question, which
does the verse mean that to have no thoughts about material things at all? Does this mean to have no thoughts about material things at all, or just not to be attached to those thoughts?
No, that part is said clearly, that in which what is inside of your thoughts become your reality itself. So if your thoughts about material things is dependent, then you will become dependent upon the global things about it, and it will be very difficult to go out of it. But when you're dependent, that what is in your mind, it is also for the service of Krishna, then it will be different completely. Because the aim, again, like I said, for that mind to focus upon something which is eternal, this is the most important, aim of life itself. Because you have something, your potency inside of you, long for something which is eternal. It can't be attached to something. So the mind, as much it is focused onto the outside, it will see only the gross things of the outside. It will be limited only to what you see, what you touch, what you smell, what you hear, by the senses itself, So here Bhagavan is, in this verse is reminding one to transcend, even if it is difficult. Like he said, also, it's very difficult to control the mind, So, but because that mind is also bound by the three gunas itself, So, in that context, he didn't say that you can't have something which is material. Yes, have, because he gave you. He look after you, he care for you. And if he sees that due to your punya from previous lives, you must have something, he will give you. Many things he will give it to you. But that must not become something that will drag you into the world itself, into Maya itself, or into delusion itself. It have to come to a point that these things have to come to the point of liberating you, free you. Again, freedom is to attain Him, to attain His grace. It's so beautiful. There is this beautiful story of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So when he was small, he used to just sit around and he will just look in the sky, in the void, and look in the sky. And of course he will murmur something. And then that was his state. He was in a state of and in bliss which he was enjoying inside of him. He was centered into that space, into that bliss of the Lord inside of him. But can people on the outside realize in which state of bliss he was? No, they were not. So his father was very upset with him. His father would say, you are useless, you're not doing anything, you're just sitting. Like for sure many people tell that spiritual people are useless people, or they just sit and don't do anything. But his father also was a very practical person. He will work and he will look after the family, and he will see his son which is not doing anything. And he was worried for his son. He was caring for him. He said, okay, one day I will not be here. What will happen to him? He must work. He must do something with his life. And here he's sitting, just looking in the air, don't do anything. And of course he became upset, But when people will come near to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the people will feel a certain transformation in them. Something will happen to them. Even just being in his presence without any talk, something will change inside of their heart. This is what being in the presence of the Master does, you see. It transforms and changes somebody. Funny, yesterday we went walking with Jaitraya actually. We were walking on, and then he was telling the first day when he came to Sri Pittanilaya. And it was funny because we were walking, he was saying, I came, I didn't believe in anything. And I wanted firstly, to test. He said to his sister and the Polish people, I will show you that your guru is a cheater. And how he will do that? He will ask me a question that how is his father? He will tell me that his father is sick when his father passed away already, and he will say, okay, if I will ask him a question, say, my father is sick. If he said, oh yeah, your father will, whatever answer I will give, then he will contradict, But when he came, he said that I spoke with him, but he didn't ask the question, because that transformation already started to happen inside of him. He didn't need any proof of the outside. Just being there, something have touched him and changed something inside of him. There is also a beautiful story of once a boy wanted to test a holy man. So what he did, he caught a bird and he hid it behind his hand. And with both hands behind, he went to this holy man and he said, tell me, what I'm holding in my hand, is it alive or dead? So inside of the mind of that boy, he was thinking, to test this holy man, he will, if the holy man said if it is alive, he will just break the neck of the bird. Like that, he will prove that he is wrong. But if the holy man said that the bird is dead, he will just open his hand and the bird will fly, just to prove that he is wrong. So as he went there and he asked the question to the holy man, and the holy man just kept quiet. And the holy man just said to him, it's all in your hand. He didn't give an answer whether it is alive or dead. He said, it's all in your hand. That choice, you see, it is in your hand, whether you want it to be alive or to be dead. So he realized his mistake and he asked for forgiveness. So you see that choice awake inside of each one of us, when you are in the presence of the Master. And that transformation itself start to happen. So in the presence of Guru Nanak Dev Ji also, you see, the people, when they will be in his presence, they will transform even without any words itself. But you see, people which is near to you and dear to you, they will not truly understand, especially your parents. I remember to my own parents itself, it's very difficult for them to understand, because you see, from small they see you in a different way. Parents perceive you as their child, of course when the transformation stop happening, they will not be able to understand that. So like that, Guru Nanak Dev Ji also's parent could not understand him. When people will come and tell them, okay, you are so blessed to have a son like him, and the father will say, my foot, what are you talking about? Blessed am I, how can I be blessed? He's just using all that we are giving him. We work hard, we bring the money, but he's not doing anything. So one day, his father said, as you're not doing anything, please take the cow and buffalo for grazing. That was like the lowest job you can do. I said, okay, just go away and do something with your life. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji took the buffalo and the cow for grazing. And as they will be grazing, because of his nature itself, the cow will be in the same peaceful mood as him. So the cow will graze around, and he will just sit under the tree and be absorbed into that bliss, which is inside of him. So, as he was into that bliss, the cow started grazing a bit further into the neighbor land and destroyed the whole field. Everything was destroyed, flat completely. So when the man found out, he came and very angrily, he took Guru Nanak Dev Ji by force and drag him, bring him to his father. Said, look, this useless son of yours, what he have done, he have destroyed my field. And they brought him in front of the chief, of the village chief, and they said that he demand that they pay the full amount of the crops, who have been destroyed. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, listen, nothing is lost. What is yours? Nothing is yours. Everything, it is his. The cow, it is his. The field, it is also his. The harvest is also his. What are you saying that is lost? All is his. So such surrender was Guru Nanak Dev Ji, but he perceived that everything is the grace of the Lord himself, and everything had been given by Govind. nothing. You come with nothing and you will leave in nothing. Nothing is really yours. Everything, it is His. And with such gratitude and love, He said, nothing is lost. You will see that your harvest will be much more, than normal. I said, how come? You just destroyed the whole harvest. How will it be? So then the owner of that field said, okay, fine, you all come, see what he have done, and then you have to pay me for that. When they went back to the field, which the cow had destroyed, flattened completely, that field was completely different. That vegetation was much more from what it was throughout all the years. Then he realized, that how the Lord Himself reflect through Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and whatever he have touched is a blessing for him. So he asked for forgiveness. So you see, those mind who is centered in Bhagwan, things which is impossible is made possible. So it's one thing is that we have to see that whatever we do, like Guru Nanak Dev Ji, whatever he said, when he said that the cow is his, the field is his, the harvest is also his. So everything, when we perceived as being his, that mind itself start to transform and become a mind of complete surrender. So how can an attachment be to something which is material? No, that mind will transform into a surrender to His will, that it is, everything is for His service that we are here.
Dear Guruji, could you explain what exactly is hell? You've told us that there are levels of hell, so it sounds like a place, but in the chapter 16 of the Gita it is said that the hell is in other people. So
the hell is?
In other people.
Hell is in other people. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
So is it a place or a situation?
Well, hell can be many level of hell. It can be also here, in this plane also hell. In which state you dwell, you can also make this wonderful place a hell for you. So, in which mind state you are in. Some people can appreciate everything and be happy in any situation, and some people can, even in happy moment, can make that moment a hellish moment. So you see, again, those who dwell in the tamstic mode, because of the nature itself, everything will appear as hell. So hell can be also when you desire something so strongly, and that desire don't happen the way you want. How you become? You become in a state of hell itself, because you feel completely abandoned, completely destroyed, being alone and depressed and so on. This is a state of hell where you feel lonely. You forget everything else which have been given to you, all the good that have come into your life. That is also a state of hell. This is a two state of hell being here. But as you were saying about a hell being a place, yes, as heaven is a place, the dominion of the let's say the hell kingdom is also a place. It's a place of purification, a place where you go there to realize what mistake have you done in this life. When you have accumulated so much bad punya, bad merits. God have given you this life, but yet you have used it not in a right way, of course you will go to a place where, according to what you have done, the sin, because you see, when you do lots of bad things, you accumulate lots of sin. And this sin, some sins can come with you for the next life, yes, but in between this life and next life, you have to understand that important, that gravity of what you have done. Because you see, some people really wish, when they do bad things, they find great joy in destroying the life of others, by poisoning the life of others. Of course, they will have to go some places where they will be reminded to that. And Garuda Puran explained that, but how it is. Bhagavad also explained, how hell is, People very often will think, okay, yes, we'll just go in an eternal fire. No, it is not eternal. Note that one thing. In Hinduism, there is not an eternal fire. There is a fire. Of course, you will get burned, you will get crushed and so on. Torture is there. But it's not eternal. Once your soul have realized, oops, I must change something, you will be back again here on earth. The same thing, like I said, heavens also is not a permanent place, because very often in the mind of people, they think that heaven is permanent. Of course, there is many heavens. Only one place which is permanent is Vaikuntha. So, heavens, you will go there, you will do your shopping with all your punyas that you have, and then you will come back here. And hell also is the same. You have credit, you will have to pay the balance. But you will have to come back here again to work for that. So, it is a place also. It's not that you will take a flight and go to hell, or you will take a flight and go to heaven. No, they are in an etheric level. They are in different dimension, in different worlds in itself. And of course, like I said, there is many different levels of hell. It can't be only one level of hell, because, if you have done a minor sin, why would you go in the same hell as somebody who have done something which is terrible? So, like that, there is different levels. More gravity, more heavy is your sin that you have done. More aparad you have done in your life, more deeper will be the hell, and longer will be your place there, and longer will be the torture also, because you are such a hard nuts to crack that you need bigger beating. So then you will be sent even deeper one. So that's why, you see, continuously God sends the Guru to remind one to be centered, not even into the free mode of conduct, but beyond. You have to center your mind into the lotus feet of the Lord, so that you can transcend hell, heaven also, to transcend the free gunas, and reach the feet of Sriman Narayana, which is eternal. And then that's why Krishna said, those who surrender to me, those devotees who surrender to me, they attain me. Those who have given their heart to me, those who have given their life to me, I look after them, I take care of them, and they come to me because they have understood that going back and forth, how long would you be? You will stay always in that chakra, into that cycle. This is not life. It's only when you go beyond that. So you have to transcend this. So yes, hell is a place also. But it's not a permanent place like many others say. It is a place where you go for a short holiday, and you enjoy your beating and torturing what you needed to have, and then you come back here, fresh new, and work again. This time with the hope that you do something better, and through the grace of Guru and God, you can attain something even more superior than that. You can attain the lotus feet of Sriman Narayana himself.
Jai Gurudev, you have taught us that God is with form and without form. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, verse 30, it says, "The conception of the Vishvarupa universal form of the Lord, as it appeared in the material world, is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent and beginners to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having form. But factually, the Lord has no material form. Could you please explain this?"
So in that question, the last part of it, it said that the Lord doesn't have a material form. We have to understand that the form, when Bhagavan manifests himself, that form is not bound by the law of the free mode of conduct, which is Rajasic, Tamasic and Sattvic. That's why, in that verse what I said earlier, it said that I am beyond. All this mode of creation have been created by my Maya. So it has been created by me. I am beyond that. I am not in them, but they are in me. So you see, the whole creation have a beginning and have an end. But when Bhagavan manifests himself, we don't say he take birth, because he don't take birth. Even being in the womb of Devaki, he just appeared, make the belly big, but he don't take birth. When Krishna was born, for example, we see that the baby was there and Mahavishnu was Chaturbhuja, Vishnu was behind him standing, So when they perceived that, he was not born, like normal being, where you have to go through suffering. Even being born into this world is you have to go, you're coming out from the mother itself. You have to push yourself. The mother have to push you out. Imagine what your mother have to go through. That pain that your mother go through, and the pain that you as a baby coming out from the mother, squeezing yourself from a small hole, it is painful. So Bhagavan, he didn't go through all this. He manifests himself there. So his cosmic form, it's not bound by the material reality. He's beyond that, because everything he create, and he's not associating itself to that. So his form is, that's the word that many used, transcendental. It's beyond the comprehension of the mind, beyond even the mode of Maya itself. That's why you can see one moment he is portrayed as being small, and the next moment he can expand himself in many. So his form itself is not a material form. So imagine Bhagavan, okay, we say God, like say earlier, in your question you said that God is formless, Very often people say that, Many people talk about, God can't have a form, especially nowadays you hear that very much, that God can't have a form. How can God can't have a form? When He have created everything, He have created the whole universe, firstly. When we look at, for example, take the Bible itself, God will, even Bhagavad itself, even has the Veda itself start, the will of God, God will. So if there is a will somewhere, the will can't just be in the emptiness of something. The will must come from a brain, no? It's have to have a certain mindset for a will to happen. Now, so logically, if there is a will, there is a somebody who will it. No, it can't be the air start or the emptiness start to will something right now. Like many people think that God is formless, God can't have a form. But yet that will must come from somewhere when He willed for everything to happen, to manifest. And that manifestation must come from ideas, and ideas must come from a mind. So a mind must have a form, that mind must come from a brain, and the brain must come from somewhere in a form. Logically, there must be a being, which we call God, who have willed everything. He can't will something that is not, So when we talk about the formless God, we talk about the potency of Him which is embedded in His creation, His emanation, His energy, which is embedded in everything. That's why Krishna said, I am in the plant, I am in the tree, I am in the stone, I am in each one of you, everybody. This is the omnipresence of God Himself, That is not limited. There is not one thing which is not in His potency. Everything is created as an emanation of Himself. So there must be a self that have emanate something. It can't just happen like that and randomly from thin air, So let's imagine God, who have created everything, can't have a form. It's a bit absurd when we think about it. That one who have created everything, He can't create a form for Himself. Then He's not God. Then He's limited. Even us, being a little particle of Him, human being is a speck of Him, have a form. How come He who have created everything by His own will doesn't have a form? So Bhagwan have a form. That's why it is said that everything happened in His cosmic body. This whole universe is what you see and perceived, when He showed His Virat Swarupa, He showed His cosmic form to Arjun. He showed that the whole universe, it is just in my form. Whatever you see, it is in my form. You see the battlefield here, it is in this form. Everything, is happening into this form. Remember when Lord Krishna, when He was small, when baby Krishna was walking, and He takes some earth, dirt, and put it in His mouth. And the little Gopas run and tell Mother Yashoda, your son have eaten dirt. And Mother Yashoda rushed there and forced baby, said, you have eaten dirt. And the baby Krishna said, no, I have not eaten dirt. I said, open your mouth, let me see. And when he opened his mouth, what did she see? She saw the whole universe inside of his mouth. The whole universe is there. It's not that he have eaten something which is separate from him. He have the whole universe inside of him. So that was Mother Yashoda perceived into the mouth of baby Krishna. So seeing that, she also saw him, saw her, and baby Krishna with open mouth. How blessed is that, to realize that we are not at all separate from Him. This is a realization which master, that is the realization which, even when we talk about realization, we talk about that awakening of something which is dormant inside of you, to remove that the ignorance from one mind, and transform it. So Bhagavan is everything. It's just one have to come to that point of realizing that, and attain to that grace, for that realization to happen. So Bhagavan is with form and also without form. His cosmic form, his omnipresence. That is his formless state, which is embedded in each form itself. So, next question.
Continuing the subject, question 4. Guruji, you have said that following impersonalist philosophies leads to spiritual suicide. So how should we view masters who teach this to people? Is an ordinary quote-unquote Vaishnava who is still on his way better placed than even such masters?
Yes, actually a Vaishnava, somebody who have realized what I just said earlier, is much advanced than those who teach that God is without form, because one have come to that understanding, or awareness that one have to attain the Lord feet, even if they know about it, but being in a state of mind which is deluded by certain delusion, they think that everything is one, everything is empty, and there's nothing else. Then what's the use of having a life? You have, it's not only waiting for you to die. Now you should commit suicide itself, because there's emptiness, there's nothing. What's the use of being alive then? For what are you doing your sadhana? What are you the use of doing your spiritual practice when there is nothing afterwards? It's useless. So, in that context, yes, a Vaishnava is even more advanced than those who think that they are, focusing upon the void or an emptiness of things. Check with it.